Hello everyone, and welcome to the 10 Ways to Save Money on Your Food Budget webinar. My name is Nina Nelson, and I am the owner of ShalomMama.com, a blog and website dedicated to helping moms and families simplify natural living. So I'm so grateful that you're here with me today because I am sharing on one of a frequently asked question that I get is, how do I save money on food, specifically real food? Real food is simply food that's as close to how it was created as possible, so free of harmful chemicals and preservatives and toxins and just really good, whole, nourishing food. So I thought, you know what, since I get asked that question so much, why not create a short little class and just share some of the tips that I've implemented with my family to help us create a really good food budget where we eat real food every single day. So before I get started, I just want to share that creating a real food budget, it can be done very simply, and one of the best ways to do that is by planning and cooking from scratch. And that's actually what happened several years ago when we decided to get out of debt. Was I decided to take a look at everything we were spending and see, where could I make the biggest impact. And one area was in our food. And after reading a ton of stuff, the Tightwad Gazette, I'll link to that in the resource page, was one of my favorite resources for actually curbing our food budget so much. And I actually got down to $180 a month for food. But at that time, I really wasn't eating real food. It was still a lot of, I guess, nothing was from a box. I cooked everything from scratch, but I really wasn't paying attention to what kind of meat I was buying. There weren't very many vegetables. It was very much a grain-based diet. So today our diet looks a lot different. We don't rely on grains as much. We do eat grains still, but we try to eat a lot more fruits and vegetables and meat that has not been filled with chemicals or antibiotics or anything like that. We try to find food at a discount or free or bartered, exchanged as possible. So I'm going to be sharing ways to do that. And if you haven't read the Tightwad Gazette, I highly recommend getting that book. You can find it at the library, though I've heard that it's actually the most stolen book from the libraries in Maine. Interesting. Get that book and check out her tips. She doesn't eat a real food diet all the time. Some of the stuff she eats, I'm like, ooh. But she's got some great tips in there too, and that's where I gleaned a lot of the information I'm going to share from. So today, our grocery budget is a bit higher. We've added 2 more kids since that time when I was feeding my family on $180 a month. We had 2 kids at the time, and one was a brand new baby, and the other was a very picky 2.5-year-old. So things are a bit different now. I have 4 kids. The oldest is 9, and oh my gosh, I am learning about the term, growing boys, because holy cow, that kid, he's just so hungry all the time now. And then my littlest guy, he's about 4, almost 5, he's hungry all the time too. So our budget now is about $92 a person each month, which comes out to $550. So that might be a lot for you, but if you have, only 1 kid or 2 kids, that's not very much each month of being able to feed your family whole, nourishing food. So let's jump into it. So the first thing that you need to do to save money on your food budget is to create a budget, because I will be very honest and tell you that when I started this, when we started getting out of debt, I had no food budget. I don't know where I was expecting that money to come from, but there was no food budget at all. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, after we pay all our bills, we'll buy food. So a lot of you probably already have a food budget and you're like, holy cow, I know how to do a food budget, but I need to figure out how to save money. Don't worry, I know. I know that a lot of you are really great at that, but some of you probably have not put that much time into creating a food budget, or your food budget is a little bit unrealistic. Maybe you are trying to feed a family of 6 on $200 a month, and being very, very picky about the kind of food you eat. There has to be some give in some areas, and it is totally possible to feed a larger family on less, but it can't be, everything 100% organic or, all gluten-free boxed stuff. I mean, it has to be realistic. So what is realistic for your family? Is it $500 a month? Is it 300? I have a friend who blogs at Don't Waste the Crumbs, Tiffany. Love that website. Check it out if you haven't already. But she feeds her family of 4 on less than $400 a month. I think it's something like $350 or something like that. And she's got lots of money saving tips. So, but it stemmed from having to get really creative with her budget and create a budget that was actually realistic for her family. So what's realistic for your family? And is it possible for you to save anywhere else? And I do realize that some people do not have that much money for food each month. I know that, and I've been there. So I'm telling you this not to offend or to make you feel like, man, I really should have more money for food. What's wrong with me? But to, get people thinking, like, is this realistic for our family? And trying to figure out other ways to get money for your food budget, because food is very important. It's what keeps us alive. And it's my belief that that budget should not be something that gets pushed off to the end. If you've got all these bills that are coming first, and then your food's kind of this afterthought where you're trying to feed your family super well, but you've only got $200 a month to do so, or more than that, whatever. But if that's the case, maybe there are other places that you can trim in your budget to allocate more money to food, because it is so important. Maybe you don't need cable. Maybe you can do without cable, I should say, and use your computer to watch movies, go down to Netflix, $7.99 or $8.99 a month. Maybe you can eat out less and take that money that you're spending on eating out and put it towards your food budget. Because food it's so important. And so if you are not taking a look at every other area of your budget as you're creating your food budget, then you need to. It has to be a holistic approach. You can't just look at your food budget and say, oh man, I don't have enough money here. How can I save as much money as possible, when you're spending a bunch of money elsewhere that you really don't need to be spending. So that's my little soapbox about money there, and food and budgeting and that kind of thing. So create a food budget. That is the first tip. The simplest tip, I think. And next, it's time to start planning to help you actually save money. The first thing I recommend is making a pantry list. And this is something that I got from the Tightwad Gazette. Really got to read that book. It's awesome. And funny. What she did and what I do is, instead of getting weekly ads, every week, getting coupons and all that, and buying everything that was on sale, instead of going that route, you take a look at the foods your family eats most often, and creating a shopping list or a pantry list, and just replacing those items as you finish them. So maybe there's a huge sale on lentils, and your family hates lentils. I mean, why buy the lentils, even if they're on sale, if that's not something you eat? If you guys eat rice like it's going out of style, then that needs to be on your pantry list. What foods does your family like to eat? And this is a time to be realistic. And I have had this, I've had to face the music, I guess, in this area, because I had stuff on my pantry list that I thought, yeah, we need, these vegetables and these vegetables and these fruits. And then when I looked at it, I would go out and buy those foods, those fruits and vegetables that were on the pantry list, and then they'd go to waste because nobody in my family wanted to eat them. Even though I thought we should be eating them, even I didn't like them. And we naturally, we gravitated towards other fruits and vegetables. And I thought, we've got to have variety and all that, and we've got to do this. But what ended up happening was I was throwing out all this food, and that's just so terrible if you're on a limited food budget, to be throwing food out because nobody wants to eat what you've got. And I know, some people might think, well, people need to just, eat what's there, but it's a lot easier to eat what's there when it's actually something you want to eat. So why not, in the first place, buy stuff that you and your family actually enjoy eating? So that's why the pantry list is there, so that you can make the list of the fruits and vegetables that your family loves, and, meats and dairy items and, all that stuff. Make that list and go from there. And when you go shopping, replace the items that are on that list. And this is where I kind of come in a little bit differently than, you know, the Tightwad Gazette was. I would actually make a plan, which she doesn't recommend. She does not do menu planning. She makes the pantry list, and every night they figure out what they're going to eat the next day. I like to make a plan because if I'm going to go out shopping and replace the items on my pantry list, I know that based on my menu plan, I only need 2 pounds of cheese instead of having to buy like 5 pounds of cheese, you know? You know what I'm saying? So using that menu planning in conjunction with the pantry list can really help you to save money on foods like perishable items that might go to waste if you buy too much in a given month, and help you to not spend as much at the grocery store when you know that you're not going to eat that. So that's why I recommend using the pantry list to meal plan. And another thing that I like about the pantry list is it's really easy for you to just have that list in front of you and think, okay, if you've got, say for some reason your food budget is less next month than it normally is, you can take a look at that pantry list and think, all right, what are the most expensive items on this list that we can not buy next month and replace with other items that we do eat? So it was helpful for me, at least, to have the pantry list, because whenever say we end up not having as much for the budget, or you know, we end up buying something really, like there's a really amazing deal on grass-fed beef somewhere and we decide to stock up, that leaves, you know, a little bit less for other things, but I can take a look at my pantry list and say, okay, well, we're not going to buy this, this, and this month, but we are going to get a little bit more of this inexpensive stuff and use that to feed everyone and mix it with that beef that we bought, or you know, whatever. So I highly recommend making a pantry list. If you want to, you can print it off and, you know, organize it on a spreadsheet, which I love spreadsheets, so that's what I did. I put stuff under produce and then dairy and then frozen, that kind of thing, and then I print it off and I keep it in my pantry, and it just helps to look at that when I'm grocery shopping, see what's there, and then put it on my list, you know, time to replace this. And then one more thing, actually two more things. If you go to shalommama.com/save-money, at the bottom you'll be able to actually click on this link to a download, and it has my pantry list in it. So if you want to see what that looks like, you can get it there. It's shalommama.com/save-money, and I will put that in the resources as well if you just want to go scroll down and click there. And then I don't know if I said this because I forget things like as soon as I see them, but there's also a blank one if you want to print it off and fill it your own. And second thing I was going to say is, it's gone now. See, I should have written it down. Anyway, moving on. So make a pantry list. It's very helpful. And it's also really wonderful when everything on your pantry list that you need to replace just happens to be on sale when you get to your favorite store or you check the weekly ad. It's awesome. I've been known to do happy dances because of that. So 3, plan. The number one way to save money on food, I believe, is to plan. And that doesn't mean, you know, just making a menu plan, which is ridiculously helpful. But you also need to plan out, like, where are you going to shop for your groceries? We live in a really small area. I live in a really small town, and my husband and I have had this conversation a lot. And he says, well, you know that you like to travel to Bend, which is 45 minutes away, to get groceries. He says, but aren't you just using the money that you save on groceries on gas? And I told him, actually, no, because over the years I have figured out which stores have the cheapest foods that we get, and the stores that are local to us, they, one, don't carry most of the foods that we eat because we go to like Trader Joe's and Costco, sometimes Whole Foods, sometimes, and our local store just does not carry that. And for us to buy the stuff that we do buy, say at like Costco, in the quantities that we buy them at, we would be spending so much more each month on groceries, and it would far outweigh how much we spend on gas for a big once-a-month shopping trip where we can stock up on everything at once. So yeah, figure out where to shop, and you don't have to like go to your stores and it's called making a price book. You can like actually literally make a price book and write down the foods you buy and then how much it costs at the different stores in your area. You don't have to just go out and do that in one day. I recommend, compiling this over time. And then after a while, you'll know automatically, oh, Fred Meyer has the cheapest apples. Or if I go to Costco, I'm going to save a lot of money on frozen organic produce, cheese, and coconut oil. It's just something that you learn, but you have to start being aware of, what's lower at certain stores so that like if a sale for us, like if a sale were to come out at Safeway on something, I would know based on that sale and how I've been paying attention to prices over the last several years that I should just go pick up that stuff at Safeway because it's so much cheaper than to just wait until my shopping trip to Bend. So it really helps to pay attention when you're shopping to how much things cost at different stores so that you can see that you are going to save money by going to these different stores for your items versus getting everything in one spot, because you definitely do pay more for convenience, because some place might have something super inexpensive there that you go buy, but everything else on your list might be ridiculously expensive and much cheaper somewhere else. So plan where to shop, plan what's on the menu. I like to menu plan. Actually, I don't like to menu plan, if I'm being perfectly honest, but I menu plan out of necessity because it saves us so much money. And you can menu plan a week in advance or a month in advance or 2 weeks in advance, whatever works for you, whatever doesn't make you crazy. And if you need help getting started, I have a sample menu plan at that same spot, that same link, shalommama.com/save-money. There's a sample menu plan in there of ours, like what we would eat on a monthly basis. But menu planning is simple. It just takes sitting down and doing it. And there are lots of different menu planning websites to help you, and I'm going to link to some in the resources, but you can menu plan any way you want, just as long as you try it out and see how it works for you. And then you're also going to want to plan what you're going to buy, because I don't know about you, but if I go to the grocery store without a list, and I like to say, my mental list will work. You just saw what happened. I can't remember things. I was going to tell you something and I completely forgot. That's the same with groceries. Write down what you are going to buy, because if you don't go to the store with a plan, a list of what you're going to get, often you will forget what you are going to get, if you're like me, and then have to go back a second time, which costs more money, or you'll end up buying stuff that you've got plenty of at home, or buying stuff that you really don't need. So I recommend planning what you're going to buy and then sticking to it. All right, how do you save money at grocery stores? These are my top 5 tips that I have found are most helpful. And one is, don't shop hungry, because everything looks good and you're going to want to buy it. Eat something before you go and take a snack with you, because if you're like a day-long grocery trip, you want to make sure that you are fed and not hungry while you're shopping around for groceries. Otherwise, that's when things end up in your cart. And if you're like me, they're things that you really don't want to be eating, but man, you just can't resist them at the time. Also, I recommend shopping with cash. Obviously, if you are using things like food stamps or something like that, you can't take cash. And I know because I've been there. But what you can do is just say, hey, I'm only going to spend this much money on groceries today. And then you can also figure out what you're going to take extra, because I recommend taking a set amount of cash. So, okay, I'm spending $100 on groceries on this big shopping trip, but I'm taking an extra $25 just in case I find a really, really, really great deal on something we use all the time that I can stock up on. Because doing that will first keep you from overspending, because if you don't have the money, you can't spend it. And then I also leave my debit card at home. I've had to start doing that, because otherwise I'm like, oh, swipe. So take a set amount of cash, and then if you find like a smoking deal on something that you buy all the time that like is normally $1 a pound, and you find it for 20 cents a pound or something like that, stock up. That is one way that we have found to save money. Buying in bulk, if you are buying in bulk wisely, can be make a huge impact on your budget and save you a ton of money in the future. So you can, set aside even more extra cash for those bulk purchases. But I recommend deciding ahead of time what you're going to spend so that you don't go over and get home and freak out. Go solo when you can. I'm a mom with 4 kids, so I know that that doesn't always happen. I mean, it rarely happens for me, and when it does, I tend to wander around the store in a daze like, oh, I'm all by myself. I should probably get my grocery shopping done, but I'm just going to walk around and stare at things for a little bit. But what I've noticed is that if I go with people, whether it's my husband or my kids, I tend to come home with more things than I wanted, mostly because, like, if my husband goes, he's like, oh, yeah, we need that. And I say, okay, we'll get that too. Or my kids will be like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this. And it's just a lot easier for me and for others to concentrate when they're by themselves and focused on their list and what they're going to get. And then you can get in and get out quickly so that you don't have the temptation of buying a ton of stuff. If finding help with somebody to watch your kids while you grocery shop is challenging, maybe you have a mom friend who would swap and watch your kids while you go out and grocery shop, and then you can do the same for her. Don't go shopping often. So what tends to happen is we get to dinner time, and then we realize, oh man, I'm out of whatever that I need for this meal, and make a quick trip to the store. And then while you're there, you're like, oh yeah, I want that too, or that's on sale, I'm going to get that. And when that happens, we end up spending a lot more money on groceries than if we were to just go like once a month and then every week or every 2 weeks replenish any fresh produce that was eaten that you need to restock. So I recommend, as a way to keep myself out of the grocery store frequently, is to make a list of things that I need and only go after I've hit 10 items. Because often I can find substitutes for the things that are on the menu or whatever in my recipes by looking around my kitchen. And once I get to 10, I'm definitely probably need to go to the grocery store, because we really don't buy that much food anyway, and a lot of it is stuff we eat on a regular basis. It could be 5 for you, it could be 8, but I don't recommend just running to the store for just one item. And lastly, stick to the list. We go to Costco, and I can't tell you the last time I spent over $100 at Costco. And I have so many friends who are like, oh, Costco, you can't get out of there without spending at least $200. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. But really, you can if you've got a list and you stick to the list. I know what I'm going to get at Costco, and I know because I've looked around and I know what prices are elsewhere. I only have a few things that I get at Costco. One is a gigantic brick of Tillamook cheese because it's cheapest there, and coconut oil and vanilla. I know what I'm going to get at Costco, so I know that when I go there, I'm not going to spend much money because I have my list of items that I'm going to get, and I stick to the list. I really had to pretty much train myself out of just saying, oh, that looks good, that sample was good, and putting things in my cart. So a lot of this grocery store shopping also comes down to discipline, self-discipline. And if you're anything like me, it's not easy, but it's definitely worth it. All right, free food. I love free food, and we get it frequently because I am very open about, being open to receiving free food. So I know some people are like, I can't let people know that, it's a pride issue, or they'll feel weird or something like that. But I have enough tightwad friends that I can say, hey, if you've got any zucchini in your garden, I will take it. Or if you've got any extra this, let me know. And I think another thing is with us is that we've got a large family, so people I think just think, oh, those people need food, and just give us free food frequently anyway. Maybe they think we're like broke or something. I don't know. Living in a bus does tend to give some people that impression. But foraging and gleaning is one of my favorite ways to get food for free. So foraging just means looking in the wild for food. Gleaning means like if a farmer, like we did this one year, a farmer in a neighboring town, a big potato farmer, had gone through and harvested their potatoes, and we went through and gleaned it and just pick up what they didn't get with their machines. And they were, they were welcoming. They said, please get whatever you can, take it. We are not going to get this stuff. So that's the difference between foraging and gleaning. And the wonderful thing about foraging and gleaning is, especially in the summertime, there are so many options. I remember one year we were driving back from a trip to the coast, and we found a wild blackberry patch set off from the road a little bit, and we just picked blackberries for an hour. We're like, yeah, this is adding time to our trip, but we're coming home with all these blackberries and saving that money there. I have a friend. She is she's a nutritionist who loves to preserve food, and she loves to forage. So she's got all these exotic sounding wild apricot jams and jellies and stuff because she just keeps an eye out when she's out walking. She's like, I found an abandoned pear tree, or there's a walnut tree in my backyard, Like, we just moved into a house and we have an apple tree in the backyard. So I have got my eye on that apple tree. I'm like, hurry up. So foraging and gleaning is really great. You just have to keep your eyes open and just have an ear out for these opportunities that might come up. So if you're going for a walk or a drive somewhere, maybe take a bag with you. If you find something and you pick it, if it's safe to eat, you can always Google it when you get home before you eat it just to make sure. But have something that you can put things in, because you never know where you're going to find it. My husband dropped off our niece and nephew last week. They had stayed for 5 days with us, and he met his sister at this place that we always stop at on the way home from there. But they decided to explore because she was running late, and they found tons of wild huckleberries. And they ate everything there, but had there been a receptacle, they would have taken it and picked it and brought it home. So you never know when you're going to find stuff. So keep an eye out in a receptacle in the car. And then I love asking on Facebook if anybody knows of where I might find stuff like this. Again, that's putting yourself out there. People might think, oh, are they broke or something? But for the most part, my friends are like, oh yeah, there's this place that we found. Check it out. So that's a really helpful place to find it. And then also, if you look for community that might help you out in that area. We are part of a local homeschooling community, and that's actually where we learned about gleaning those potatoes. And let's see, what else did we find out about? We found out about other stuff, but I mostly just look for community, look for people who are like-minded, who are also trying to save money on food, who are open to this kind of thing, and you can share tips with each other of where you can find this great stuff. 7, of course, gardening. We have a small garden this year, and I am learning each and every year that I plant stuff, just what I don't need to plant and what I need to plant more of. But I love having a garden because that saves me so much money, and I know that it's organic and that it's fresh and it's local and all those good, wonderful buzzwords that you hear. And I did it all by myself, when I remember to water anyway. So if you can garden, even if you don't have space for a garden, get a pot and plant like some basil in it. Anything that you can do to grow your own food is better than not doing anything at all. So if you've got a space for a large garden, by all means use it. If not, get creative and see what you can grow. But before you start planting, you need to think about what you're going to eat the most. Because I did this one year. I was like, oh, I'm going to plant this and this and this and this. And I planted all this stuff, and like 2 things that I planted were foods that I actually ate. And you remember what I said earlier about your pantry list and only putting things on there that you're actually going to eat? Well, we had a lot of food go to waste, and I was like, man, that is not okay. Food waste sucks. And when I finally stopped, letting it go bad, I found people to give it away to because I didn't want any more food to go bad. But I learned my lesson that I need to plant stuff that we're going to eat. So this year, our garden's actually kind of limited. We did broccoli, which we ruined, bell peppers, some jalapeno peppers for my husband, tomatoes, zucchini, and lettuce, and then a few herbs. Like, we got lots of herbs actually, and strawberries. But we didn't go crazy. 1, because we knew we might be moving out of the bus, but 2, because we didn't want our food to go to waste. I did plant tomatillos this year. And we never eat tomatillos, But mostly I wanted to see how they would do, and because my dad can turn the tomatillos into an amazing enchilada sauce. So, there are other motives there. But decide before you plant what you're going to eat more often and then plant that stuff. And if there's something that you want to plant but don't get around to, see if there are any friends that planted what you have, or that what you didn't, and that maybe you could exchange. Maybe you've got some extra zucchini and they've got extra onions, and you could do a swap or something. Exchanging stuff with friends is always a good idea. Not only is giving just one of the best things ever, in my opinion, but when you give, there's that whole thing, you give, you get what you give. If you exchange with your friends, chances are a few months down the road, your sweet friend is going to say, hey, I've got an extra 2 quarts of canned peaches, and I want you to have them. So exchanging is, again, creating that community with people where you might not have something, but somebody else has it, and they're wanting to share with you, and then you do the same with them. We've gotten a lot of free food that way. This week, actually, we went to my friend's house and picked peaches, and I've got peaches in the freezer now, and I have been binging on peaches the last couple of days because she just called us up and said, there's more than I can eat. Will you come pick them? And you can take home whatever you pick. And then she even helped us pick and sent us home with extra. And we're going to do that again with apples. It's great to exchange because you build that community. And then I was mentioning that to my yoga instructor, and she's like, oh yeah, we've got an apple orchard. When it's ready, do you want to come out and pick them? We've got tons of different kinds. So I was like, score, a bigger gleaning, foraging, local food community. So just be open to sharing with others. And then if you do garden, figure out how you're going to preserve your extra, because you're going to have extra. You could can it, you could freeze it, you could ferment it, get all fun and crazy in the kitchen. Figure it out. What are you going to do with that extra? And even if you have a ton extra, you might even be able to make a little bit of extra money for your food budget by selling off anything that you're just like, man, I've got tomatoes coming out of my ears. I can only can so much spaghetti sauce. Maybe you could sell them, set up a booth at your local farmer's market, or put something on Facebook and say, hey, I'm selling bags of tomatoes for $3 a bag or something. You can get creative there and get even more money for your food budget. All right, another favorite way to save money is wholesale stores and buying clubs. So I'm talking like Costco and then food co-op buying club kind of things. Some people say that Costco is just not worth it for the membership cost and the money savings. But I say that it totally is. We, like I said, we only get a few things at Costco, but what we do get really helps to save money on, what if we were to buy it somewhere else. So I recommend a membership club if you've been thinking about that. But one caveat, check out what they've got before you buy in, because they might not have what you have. You might just not need anything that they've got, or you might have an even better source to find, a better price on food. So I know Costco does this. I don't know if Sam's Club does this because I've never been to one. But with Costco, you can get a one-time or one-day pass to shop there without a membership. So you can shop around and scope it out and see if this is something that you want to do or not. And if it is, then, budget it. And I actually put away just a few dollars a month each month for our monthly Costco membership, so that when it comes time to renew each month, I'm just like, oh yeah, here's the money. And it's not like a big surprise. As for buying clubs, these are another really great way to buy in bulk and save, just like Costco. These are typically found on, well, there's one online. There's Azure Standard as an online buying club where you can buy in bulk and really save a lot of money. But there are local ones that you could find through your local natural health food store. If you have any local health food stores that are like small mom and pop operations, locally owned, you can ask if they have a buying club. I was actually really surprised a few years ago when I found out that our tiny little store in our town had a buying club, and it has a $50 minimum purchase. But I was able to find coconut oil there way cheaper than I could find it anywhere else. And this was before Costco started carrying it. And there are other things that I was able to get through there that made it worth the $50 minimum order for me to buy there. And I didn't buy there every week. I usually just bought coconut oil and a few other things once every 2 or 3 months or so. But it definitely helped save us money, and it's really nice to have those resources. And another thing I just want to mention, speaking of community, whenever you find a really great resource, share it with people because, that giving is just going to bring in more great resources to you. So if you find a local buying club that you had no idea about, spread the word. We just got a local place in our little tiny town. I was so excited. I went there because I saw a sign for local fresh produce. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And then I got there and I found out that they do growler refills. And I am a huge microbrew beer fan. So I was even more excited. And then I looked to my left and saw that she has free-range chickens. So she sells eggs there. And she actually also sells grass-fed beef and pasture-raised pork at a ridiculously low price. Like I was so excited. I could not wait to get home and tell all my Facebook friends, go to this place, support this local place. It's a wonderful resource. And I'm going there today actually to buy a family box of meat because it is a really, really low price for a whole bunch of stuff of meat. So look for these resources and then spread the word. And if you are shopping at a place like Costco, follow the suggestions I mentioned for grocery stores. Just take a set amount of money, stick to your list, go solo if you can, don't shop hungry, and then I can't even remember the other one, but it was there in the last slide, so you can rewind it if you want. All right, another really great way to save money on food is from the farm and CSAs, and I know some people are like, man, I checked that out and it's really expensive, and it's true. Some CSAs, some of them are, like, some of this stuff that you will find information on, it actually ends up being more than some people are spending. And I just say if it's in your budget, use it. If it's not, find some other way to save money. Because for some people, buying from a CSA is going to save them a lot of money. For some people, spending that upfront cost is going to be harder for others. So you might have to save up for a year and then buy your CSA. But I have found that from the farm is a really great way to not only support local business, but to get some really great high-quality food at a low cost. Usually that's going to be at a U-pick, so if you can go somewhere and pick from the farm directly, it's going to save you a lot of money. Farmers markets sometimes have really great deals. We have a local farmers market in our small town where I've gotten some pretty good deals on fresh produce. In Bend, which is 45 minutes away, they've got more of an upscale farmers market where I really don't save much money at all. But I like being able to go buy local food, so I have a small portion that I'll use for that. But some farmers markets will save you a ton of money, so just keep your eye out, know what prices are good, and go shop there. And then whenever you can, create relationships with local farmers, because then you can help spread the word. They can turn you on to other great resources, other farmers that they might be able to do business with. And again, like my whole thing with this, with creating a food budget, with creating a simpler life, with creating a natural lifestyle, is to be intentional and to just focus on relationships and people. So anytime you can do that, I highly recommend it. And then lastly, this is a kind of new one. You can save money online. So there are lots of different resources actually for saving money online that didn't exist even a couple of years ago. When I started saving money on groceries and trying to be a lot more intentional about that, we didn't have this. And then over time, I found places like AzureStandard.com. They're a local company to us. They are not very far away, and they sell all sorts of fresh produce, grains, all sorts of natural food stuff. And they ship once a month. I think there's a $50 minimum order, and they ship once a month, and they go out to drop sites all across the country. And if you go to that drop site, you pick up your food, and you're done. I've gotten raw cheese and butter and some whole wheat and all this stuff from there. And it's really a nice way to get local, or not local, obviously. It's not local unless you're here in Oregon with us, but get natural whole foods at a good price. And just help support a wonderful business. But there are other companies that have popped up. There's places like VitaCost where you can also go and buy coconut oil and canned goods like canned coconut milk and that kind of thing. And you really can save a good amount of money because they don't have the overhead that some stores do. They're online, so they don't have to pay as much money for keeping lights on and all that stuff. And then there's things like Amazon. Amazon is really branching out with what they offer. I just found out today there's an AmazonFresh.com, or not Fresh.com, but Amazon Fresh, where you can get fresh local stuff delivered to your door. But it's only for people in Seattle, Northern California, and Southern California. But still, that's just going to keep spreading, and it's Amazon, so it's at a really great price. But they do have the subscribe and save deal where you can pick foods that you get regularly and subscribe to that service, and then you get a discount. I do that with certain teas that I buy. And they also have a natural and organic section with tons of different groceries that you can get there that are non-perishable that they can send to your door. There's also things like online CSAs. I just learned about one. I can't remember the name of it right now, of course, but my friend Kristen at livesimply.me, she just blogged about a online meat CSA. So it's all like, grass-fed beef, that kind of thing, and it's shipped right to your door at a good price. So there are lots of options online for saving money on your budget. And you can shop around, and there will be they'll be listed in the resources page here. All right, resources. So I like to put together lists of things all in one spot just to make things easier for you. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually find the resources page on my website. It's at shalommama.com/food-savings. And I've been making notes here while I've been talking about, things to add to that resources list. So when you get done watching this, all you need to do is scroll down and you'll see links to the things that I mentioned, so that you're not like, oh, what did she say, and have to go back in the video and try to find it. It's all going to be right there for you, listed in the resources section. And to close, I just want to say that it is awesome to want to feed your family really great food, and it's awesome to try to lower your budget. But what's most important to me, and why I feel so passionate about sharing this, is by saving money on your food budget. Even though it seems like a really small, simple thing, it's just another way for you to be more intentional with your life. And what I've found is that once you start being more intentional in one area, like for us, it was on saving money so that we could get out of debt, it just snowballs into all these other areas. So if this is new for you and you're kind of hesitant and you're scared and overwhelmed, I just want to encourage you to keep going, because once you start practicing this and start getting a hold of it, it's just this wonderful, empowering, just this great feeling that you get that you've been able to make this change in your life, and soon that will snowball into other areas of your life. So yeah, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email at nina@shalommama.com. And yeah, I look forward to hearing more from you if you've got a question. And thank you so much for coming, and I hope that this makes a big impact in your grocery budget.